the record button. I'd like to welcome Vicki. Vicki, you just joined us, and we have a good number of people online tonight with us. So welcome. Just a couple procedure items. If you would, I have muted all of you, but if you need to talk with me, feel free to hit the chat feature, all right, which is under More, and then click on Chat, and you can type your question to me or a comment. And then you may also raise your hand, which I am not. I go under Manage Participants, and nope, it's not there. I have no idea where it is. It used to be here, very actively engaged. I don't see it. So we'll just skip over that one. And then you can mute, unmute. Now, if you're on the phone, I will have periods of time where I do unmute you. You may ask questions at any time unless you're obviously muted. And then after the webinar, if you have any additional questions or thoughts, you may email me at carol, C-A-R-O-L, @msu.edu. Now, I'd like to say a special thank you to Jason Schumacher of District 28, the DLC chairperson for this year. Jason added a couple points that I may want to cover for today's discussion that I really appreciated hearing his perspective of some of the things that we do unintentionally that harm the election process. Also, you may reach out to Toastmasters International World Headquarters staff for their I'm actually thanking them for their contributions to this webinar, but you may also reach out to them, specifically district services, for any additional questions that you have in regards to the webinar. I see that a couple people have chatted. We did have a table topics question at the start of the table topics question was, what is it that you are most concerned about in regards to the upcoming election? And from Karen, it says inadvertently breaking a rule. Christina says elections where emotions take over rather than rational thinking. It has happened in the past and I don't want it again. Oh, it will happen again. I hate to say that, Christina, but it is an emotional process. Jacqueline says that I am able to connect well with the audience. I should have a 2-minute speech and I need to be prepared. Absolutely, Jacqueline, and from my perspective, that was the hardest part. Well, it was all hard, but that was the hardest part for me. So I'm with you on that one. And Christina, you said at the bottom of the participants list. Oh, there you go. Okay, so that's how we raise a hand. Thank you, Christina. Let's go back and try that again. Let's see, bottom of the participant list. Oh, it says more for me. Nope, that's not it. Christina, I guess it depends on what your system looks like. For me, I'm not seeing it. So I'm going to go ahead and, for some of you, you can raise your hand at the bottom of the participant list, but if I can't see it, then I'm not able to call on you. So I'm going to say, let's not do that today. All right. All right, let's go ahead and is there any, I'm going to go ahead and take off the mute for a second. Participant list. And unmute all. At this point, is there any questions before we get started? Okay. Yes, I'm muting all. Kayla, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead, Kayla.
Oh, sorry. No. I was just showing you where it was. The mute, the raise your hand button is just on your microphone button.
Oh. Oh, more. Oh, there it is. Oh, actually mine is, because I'm the host, I'm not actually seeing all of that. It's not allowing me to raise my hand, but that is where the rest of you can raise your hand if you're online. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kayla. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the webinar. All right, so this.
Can you mute me again, please?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
There it goes. Oh, Faith, did you have a question, Faith? Or are you just playing with the hand raising?
I guess I was unintentionally raising the hand.
Okay, very good. All right, I went ahead and muted everybody. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the presentation. All right, we have ethical and unethical elections. I'm not saying that we are going to have any unethical elections, but we do want to avoid that. We don't like the faux pas of making mistakes, as was mentioned by one of our participants tonight. We don't want to make mistakes, and it's so easy to do so. And you know, when I talk to other people, it's mostly because of ignorance, that we don't know the rules, or we've been told this is what the rule is, and in fact that's no longer true. So on on my email to you, I had suggested that you read Protocol 9.0, District Campaign and Elections, prior to today's session. I'd also like to mention that Jason Schumacher of District 28 mentioned to me Policy 3.0, which is regarding specifically political ethics. And I thought, oh my gosh, we definitely need to add that to our list of reading. It's short and sweet, and it talks about what we're allowed to do or not allowed to do from an ethical perspective. Tonight's agenda is that we're going to spend time on the campaign communication case studies. How do we communicate while on campaign? Some election resources, and then we'll go into some election case studies. Okay, so the case study, first case study that we have is on the campaign communication. So under Protocol 9.0, section, campaign communications is under section 6. All right, that whole section is really important because that tends to be an area that we make mistakes in when we're communicating. And so I'm going to focus in on that section at this moment for the case studies. A nominated candidate in District 999 was listed as a keynote speaker in the spring conference program. She presented her session just prior to the election. Is there a problem? I'm going to go ahead and unmute you all again. All right. Unmuted. Okay, is there a problem?
Yes.
Yes, what is the problem?
That a registered conference participant or workshop provider cannot run for campaigning.
Okay. All right. What do the rest of you think?
I agree. It seems like there's an unfair advantage where she's able to present there, and she has an advantage over other people who aren't.
Okay, thank you, Jim. And Kayla, anybody else want to chime in?
I would agree with the others, aside from the fact that if every other participant had the same equal advantage, then it would be okay.
Okay, there you go. All right, so if we offered it to everyone and only this one person took advantage of it, then that's okay. We have to give the same opportunity to everyone. All right, so I've muted you all again. And let's go ahead into the answer key here. So under Protocol 9.6N, district officer candidates may speak and give educational presentations at district conferences at a time other than during the district council's annual meeting at the discretion of the district director. There's two conditions. One, all candidates must receive equal opportunity to provide the presentation. And two, the time, place, and length of the presentations are identified by the district director. And by the way, they must all be equivalent. So I know that this rule has changed recently. I say recently, I'm not exactly sure when it changed, but it did change. And some of us have, especially, well, I'm going to call them old timers. I hope you don't mind if you're one of them. But some of the people who have been around Toastmasters a while will not maybe know this rule has changed. And so we need to provide education and support for a situation that may crop up in our district that a candidate is having that opportunity to speak at an educational presentation. As long as it has been done fairly, then it is perfectly acceptable to do so. Okay, our second case study, a friend of a nominated candidate in District 999 sent an unsolicited email to everyone she knew in the district in support of her friend, the nominated candidate. The nominated candidate was unaware of the friend's actions. Is there a problem here? Again, I'm going to unmute everyone. Who would like to take this one on? Don't all speak at once, right? Vicki, you have some background noise.
Well, I think that, oh, I've got a terrible echo in my phone. I hope nobody else hears it.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and mute you, okay? Oops, I hope she said okay because I just muted her. Anybody want to take this one on? What do we do here? Our friend has communicated unsolicited communication to different district individuals in support of her friend. Is this a violation or is it acceptable? Go ahead.
In the district.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Okay, this is Jacqueline. I'm looking at the whole thing, and I'm saying the person is unaware of it. But when we're thinking of sending it to everyone in the district she knew, does this include the district director? Does it include a trio? Or it's just, this is where it gets, confusing to me, because I'm here saying, why should the person be blamed if they're unaware of it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that you can blame the candidate if they're not aware that this person is doing it.
Right. It's a problem, isn't it? Does it count?
Yeah.
Do you think it might count as one of the communications that were allowed? We're only allowed 2 communications, and they're pretty strict about when. Do you think this would count?
It would depend on the number of people that the communication went to and who the communication went to. If it went to people on the district council, then it might count. If it just went to regular members of the district who have been voting, then no, it would not count.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, let's go ahead and jump into the policies and see what the policies are saying for us, okay? All right, under 9.6A, a campaign communication is any message in any form that includes phone, postal mail, and email that is unsolicited by the recipient that promotes or publicizes a candidate. Okay, I think this one counts. All right. 9.6F, district candidates shall send only 2 campaign communications. These communications may only be sent to members of the district council. So if the communication from this friend was sent to members of the district council or non-members of the district council, it would be in violation of the protocol 9.0. This is not necessarily a good scenario. So what does it suggest to you in terms of how do we manage this to make sure we're not in violation of 9.0 or 9.6 in particular? And Karen, I'm reading here, I just saw that you had typed, you said it is not allowed. We are not allowed to have our friend communicate on our behalf. All right, so let me go ahead and unmute you and let's get some additional thoughts about what can we do to manage that, because we don't have total control, right?
Question on this, however, though.
Go ahead.
From a prevention perspective, and this is Christina, from a prevention perspective, you do have to communicate to your Toastmaster friends that please abide by any rules, i.e. don't communicate for me. But having said that, if that communication went to non-voting members of the district, then they have no influence over the voting. So I don't see in that case, if it was 100% non-voting members of the district council, how that could count as one of the 2 communications.
You're correct. You're correct, Christina. It needs to go, well, if it went to any member.
If it went to a mix.
Yeah.
If it went to a mix, then yes, it would count. If it went to 100% no voting individuals, then I don't see why it should count.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any suggestions on ways to manage this situation?
not to answer, this is Jacqueline Payne, not answering your question directly, but I just noticed that I attended a contest, and someone took my picture and put it up on the Facebook page without my permission, standing next to my picture. Is that allowed?
Okay, that is
which is not a candidate.
No, it's not at all on this. That's not. You are a candidate, right, Jacqueline?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we've gone off topic at this point, but when you attend a district event, if they've asked you to sign a waiver allowing them to have permission to use your photograph or image or voice in marketing materials, then they have permission to do that. Okay, but if you did not give permission, you can ask them to take it down.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And usually, if you just ask nicely, they'll take it down if you don't want it up there.
All righty. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments on this one? All right. Let's go. I'm going to go ahead and mute you again. And let's go on to case study C. A speech contestant in District 999 wore a sash in support of a particular candidate during his contest speech, excuse me. Is there a problem here? Oh, I should just leave you guys unmuted at this point. We are having a good old time here, and I'm spending too much time muting and unmuting. Go ahead, you're unmuted again.
That seems to be, that would be a problem because it's, wouldn't it be candidating, and there's usually somebody from the district council in the audience. That would be against the rules.
Okay, why, Faith? You're correct. Why?
Because wearing that sash is, in a sense, candidating, and it's a form of communication. Communication doesn't have to be verbal or words.
Okay. All right. Good. Anybody else? Additional thoughts? Okay. Let me go ahead and jump to the answer. All right. In our protocol 9.6, candidates may not produce or distribute any wearable campaign items. So this is a little different from your angle, Faith. We're simply not allowed to offer wearable items such as buttons, pins, hats, sashes, apparel, etc. at the district level. So if you ever get to a convention, you will see lots of it, but at the district level, we're not allowed to have that. Now, one of the things you were talking about, Faith, and I do want to follow up on it, is are we allowed to talk about the fact that we are campaigning? Are we allowed to have a conversation? Or is that a communication? So if we go back up to our case study A, I'm going to go ahead and put that back up here, our answer key. We may speak and give educational, no, the answer key. The answer key, where's the answer key? Oh, here it is. District candidates shall only send 2 campaign communications. These communications may only be sent to members of the district council. A campaign communication is any message in any form that's unsolicited by the recipient that promotes or publicizes a candidate. Now, what we are allowed to do, and this is really important because some districts get a little confused about it, every contest, if there's candidates that would like, they may set their stuff up on a table that is near the contest that people can then browse at. It may have marketing information about you as a candidate, and you can ask permission to make sure that there is a table there for you to display your materials. Every candidate should be able to have their own table, small table, to display your materials, or depending on space, they might ask you to share your table with other candidates. It is recommended that you may stand by your table and talk to candidates or talk to members that happen to be walking by or interested in having a conversation with you about what you offer in terms of what your campaign points are, your promises. So I do want to suggest that do consider some different types of marketing of yourself to promote it. So you are allowed to talk. I had one person ask, am I allowed to talk to my opponents? Absolutely. Give them a call, have a conversation. I know it sounds a little strange, but we are Toastmasters, and there's certainly nothing wrong in having a conversation, provided it is respectful of each other. That is perfectly acceptable. Is there any questions or additional thoughts? We'll go to this slide. Any questions or additional thoughts as it relates to our presentation at this point?
So with that whole conversation campaigning there, so if somebody were to walk up to you and say, oh, Kyla, I see that you're campaigning for this position, is that okay to converse with them because they've approached us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can have a conversation with anybody. If it's unsolicited, though, that's where you start to get into some concerns. Okay?
If it's unsolicited, it's
unsolicited. If you simply go up to people and say, oh, I'm Carol Prahinski and I'm running for blah, 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 and
got it.
that would be
Okay.
unsolicited. So they have to show interest or questioning you about what's going on. You know, hey, I heard you're running for an office. Can you tell me more about that? Or what does it mean that you're running for an office? That's the conversation. Sorry, guys. Let's see, who was that? I don't know who that was. I can't turn it off. I don't know who that was. Okay, Vicki, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm going to try to.
Oh,
Can you hear me okay?
You're echoing, it is a bit distracting, but go ahead and ask your question. Do you have when you have a minute, do you have a headset that will really help for the echo?
I don't have a headset that works with this phone.
Oh, okay.
Can I visit clubs and tell them I'm running for office?
Can you do what? Oh, visit clubs and tell them you're running for office. You are allowed to visit clubs, but you're not allowed to necessarily tell them you're running for office. You're not allowed to do that. I did not hear you.
Can your campaign manager go around and tell people that you're running for office?
Vicki, I think that's you. I'm gonna need to put you on mute. Oh, you know what? It might not. No, it is definitely you, Vicki. There you go.
Oh, good phone, yeah.
All right. You know what? I am thinking about this. Does anybody want to chime in? Do you think you know the answer? The only one who's having a problem with audio. A couple people are having a problem with audio. All right.
I would say that it's not suitable for someone to go around on your behalf and just publicize that you're campaigning, because that's unsolicited. Now, you're more than welcome to go around and visit as many clubs as you so desire. And if people ask you about it, then that's fine. But they're also not allowed to introduce you as candidate so-and-so. They just have to say that you're Toastmaster such and such from XYZ club.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And if the Toastmasters are paying attention to emails that may come through the pipeline, then they would know that you're campaigning and then just come up to you and ask.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Christina. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. You know, I'm not going to have all of the answers. And Vicki, this is a question that I like Christina's answer. It seems to fit well with me, but I'm not going to be perfect on this answer. So whenever I'm questioning, I go back to for any particular question, I read the entire policy, a protocol again. I just read the whole thing again, and I look specifically as it relates to your question. So it says candidates are prohibited from participating in Toastmaster-related discussion groups on websites, including social networking sites, for campaign purposes. That means you can participate in social networking, no problem, but you can't use it as a platform for campaigning. Candidates may have a website and use social media to promote their candidacy. No district or club social media or websites may be used to promote any individual candidate. All right, I'm just working back up the list. Let's see. Okay, I might have to spend a little bit more time thinking about that question, Vicki. So let me just make a note here, and I'll get back to you with a definite. Or I'll get back to all of you with a definite. Okay. All right. Any other questions or additional thoughts at this point? Okay, hearing none, let's go ahead into the next segment of the presentation, which is dealing specifically with our resources. What resources do we have to be successful with the campaign? All right, on the Toastmasters International website under District Leader Tools, we can click on, at this point where we are in the election process, is the we have here an election toolkit. Let me go ahead and put my red arrow on it. And then we
Carol,
click on that. Yes,
this is Christina. I'm reading a question here from Karen. She is wondering, with regards to the campaigning and going around to clubs and so forth, and I'm reading here, how does this relate to recruiting your next deck? Unquote.
Oh, great question, Karen. Thank you so much. That was Christina. Thank you. Yes?
And how do I mute myself now again? Star 7?
I have no idea. Christina, I can mute you.
Okay, well, I'm in a quiet area anyhow. I should be fine.
Okay, I can mute you right now. There you go. All right, so Karen, you are allowed to have a conversation with anybody about their goals and what they hope to do. You are approaching them and you're asking about them. So you're allowed to have that conversation. You're not allowed to say when I'm district director or when I'm, whatever position you're holding or hoping to hold. You're not allowed to say anything like that, but you are saying, I heard that you were interested, or I have a little, I think you are interested, even though you haven't said so. Is that true? You're allowed to have these conversations with individuals, and by all means, I'm hoping that you are, in some respects, a bit aggressive about it, Karen. Pick up the phone and say, I believe that you would make a great area director. What do you think? Or I have received notice that you are interested in the area director role. Can you tell me more about yourself? And in the event of, the district director would be the one who would appoint you, but I'm simply collecting information. In the event that I am elected, I want to be able to make my decision very quickly. And just give them that background, tell them your situation, and that conversation is perfectly acceptable. Okay, thank you for letting me know about that question. Okay, double checking. All right, so we're back on District Leader Tools, and now on the toolkit, I clicked it and I opened it specifically to the candidates campaign guidelines. Basically, you get this entire screen. I did one extra click and I got the candidate campaign guidelines. So if I have additional questions, this is a place that I can go. It includes the officer agreement release, and application. And if you haven't filled that out and you are interested in running for a contested elected office, by all means, get those applications and officer releases filled out. And normally you would submit them to the chairperson of the district leadership committee. In the event that you're running for area director, I would ask the current district director who you are supposed to submit that to, because area director or any appointed position still needs to fill these reports out, these applications and release forms. You still need to get them done, and I know whoever's elected is going to want to appoint their team as quickly as possible.
Like trying to get me to y'all need to respect your mother, but you ain't telling me nothing like.
Okay, I have muted that individual as well. Ayana, thank you for joining us. But I just muted you, sorry. All right, let's go on. One more slide. I have additional resources that I mentioned. We talked about 9.0 at the start of this, and then I talked about policy 3.6, political ethics. And then lastly, Toastmasters World Headquarters is always available for you, and specifically in regards to your elections that we're discussing tonight, ask to speak to somebody in district services. Okay, I'd also like to mention that Robert's Rules is critically important for your success. You need to get up to speed quickly, and if you're not comfortable with Robert's Rules, there's a specific book that I do recommend. And no, I'm not getting any payback or support on this recommendation. It's Nancy Sylvester's The Complete Idiot's Guide to Robert's Rules, 2nd edition. I recommend this book. I went through a stack of books on Robert's Rules when I was just trying to learn, and I found it to be the most straightforward and easiest to understand, which is why I'm recommending it. Now, Robert's Rules matters, particularly as it comes into the election process. You want to make sure that that election is run smoothly and correctly. In the event that it's not, you need to be able to stand up and you or your representative needs to say something to make sure that the election is run adequately and properly for a fair election. The second thing that I do recommend is you continue to hone your leadership skills. Now, I'm a professor full-time, and today I was talking to some of my soon-to-be graduating seniors. Well, they're graduating in a couple of weeks, and as we were working, I mentioned about leadership skills, and we happened to specifically talk about the importance of the balance that's needed between results and your relationships. And with that balance, sometimes we emphasize the results too much. For example, I want to win, I want to win, I want to win. But we really need to also balance the relationships that we're going to have and we continue to have with individuals within our network of people that we're interacting with on a regular basis. So I'm specifically mentioning this book called Winning Well by Karen Hurt and David Dye. Our club growth directors, our current club growth directors, did get this book at the start of the fiscal year. It was a gift from me. And I read it. I really, really liked it. It's practical, it's hands-on, and it just covers a wide variety of important topics, and it's an area that each one of us can practice and get better at, because that's how we get better as a leader. So I do suggest it. And there's lots of leadership books out there. It's kind of hard to pick between them. Which one do I want to read? If it attracts you, by all means, start reading. And then practice those skills. Okay, I'm going to open it up again to questions. I'm going to unmute you all. You're all unmuted. And I hear too much background noise. I'm going to mute you specifically. So are there any questions?
This is Christina. In terms of the Robert's Rules, how does that particular book compare to the workshop that Toastmasters International offers?
It aligns very nicely. I did teach that workshop in my advanced Toastmasters Club, and I'd say there's a very nice alignment between the two. They're complementary. Any other questions or thoughts? Hearing none. I hit the wrong button, sorry. Mute all. Oh, that happens. All right, let's continue with it. And this last section is specifically focused on the election. So we're going to go through some more case studies. And in this section, we're looking specifically at 9.0, Section 11, dealing with elections. Okay, so when we go through the election process, my first question is what is the benefit of conducting elections correctly? Unmute all. All right, unmuting all. Who would like to take this one on? What is the benefit of conducting elections correctly?
I was actually just going to say fair results for everybody.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, Kayla. Fair results for everyone. Anything else to add?
Oh, a note just
It legitimizes.
Kayla, go ahead.
It legitimizes.
Oh, sorry. Somebody popped up a note say in the chat box there. I don't know where it went though.
Okay.
Prevents controversy.
It prevents controversy. Okay, and
that's from Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
It legitimizes the winner.
Absolutely. Excellent point. Was that Jim?
Yes.
Okay, good. Anybody else? We certainly don't want to get into office and people questioning the ethics behind that election or the results of that election. I certainly don't want that for any of you. Good. Okay, and then what is the risk of conducting elections incorrectly? Well, we did talk about some of that already. Anything more to add on that? Any specific risks come to mind if we conduct elections inappropriately? Okay, nothing more to add. Okay, that's fine. Let's go into the case studies. All right, and the first case study is when voting on alignment. All right, I know all of you are going through the election process, so this might not be so much fun, but District 999 asked all delegates to raise their hand if they were voting in favor of alignment. An overwhelming majority of delegates raised their hands, and the considered alignment was passed. Is there a problem with this one?
The nays didn't have a chance to say that they were against it.
Okay, let's assume for a moment that the nays were asked, as Robert rules would indicate. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those against, raise your hand. Okay, let's assume that. Is there a problem with this?
Just needs to be a counted vote.
Why?
Because your majority and your perception of a majority might be different than mine.
Okay.
I might see 50% of the hands up, and you might say 70% of the hands up, and we could argue black and blue. This will prevent that argument.
Yeah. Now, it does say an overwhelming majority. And, you know, if it was right around 50% raising their hands, yeah, that sounds like a problem, but an overwhelming majority. And I know a lot of districts, we might not have any disagreement at all with the alignment. It's ready to just fly right through. So do we really need to go through the ballot process? All right, and that's what this one's really getting at. All right, so under protocol 9. Oh, I forgot to fill in the exact details of where it is. Oops, one page over. Forgot to fill this one in. It's under protocol 9. And ignore the L. I was trying to remember to fill that in. I forgot to do it. Okay, some voting delegates will carry more than one vote. By only asking for a show of hands, the actual number of votes in favor or against were not counted. So this ties back directly to what Christina was getting at, where if it's close, if it's not overwhelming, like 99%, we might not be as close as we thought. So District 999 could have cast a ballot for alignment, or should have cast a ballot for alignment. So even though it's more time consuming, it certainly is more accurate for passing. Go ahead.
Another way to get around that is have everybody raise their ballots and make them a distinct visual, and then you go around and count the ballots that way instead of having a ballot where the counters have to leave the room.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any additional comments on this one? Okay, moving on then. Okay, District 999 had 100 available votes. There were 3 district director candidates. The first one received 50 votes, the second one received 30 votes, and the third candidate only received 20 votes. District 999 declared the first candidate the winner. Is there any problems with this? Is there any problems with this? What do you think?
Has to be, to read from Karen, must be a majority. I am presuming Karen means it must be 50% plus 1.
That's exactly it. All right, so we need to be 50% plus 1. So we need to actually have 51 votes to make it official. And therefore, what do we have to do if I am running the election? What do I have to do to make sure that this is a fair election? What am I supposed to do next? So this is the results. What do we do next?
Vicky is replying, need to have another vote between the top two.
All right, goodness. That's it. So we need to have a vote between the top two. So the first one who received 50 votes and the second one who received 30 votes will then go into another election, and all of the people that are voting will then have a chance to vote for those two candidates. The third candidate will not be receiving any votes. So once that second vote happens, hopefully one of these candidates has a majority, that none of them are at 50 votes and 50 votes. If they literally right smack down the middle again, that would mean that we have to continue voting until there is a majority, which means that we have to push people to change their vote one way or the other.
And that happened one point in the past. I remember that.
It has happened. It was a difficult day. Yes, absolutely. All right. So under protocol 9.11L, any candidate who receives a majority of the votes cast is declared elected. In the event no candidate receives a majority of the votes that should be cast, voting continues with the use of special ballots and without the name of the candidate receiving the fewest votes, as stated earlier. All right, now at this point, I'm opening it up for any questions, and we can stay focused on the case studies, or we can take it off of the case studies, but I'm making myself available till 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So I'm just making it open. If you have additional questions, let's go ahead and have that conversation.
I, Christina, do not have anything, and I do not see anything from Vicky or Karen in the chat box either.
Thank you, Christina. I've opened up my chat box now, so it's not in my way. Earlier when I was giving the presentation, it just wasn't in the right position. Thank you.
It's Kyla. I don't have any questions either. I've learned a lot from this presentation, so thank you for taking the time to show us all of these things.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay. And I am going to get back to Vicki on these this question regarding campaigning at clubs, if we can go to clubs and actually campaign. I don't think the answer is yes, but I will get a definitive answer on that. What sort of concerns do you have as the election is going on? You want to win, right?
Because we can't do it unsolicited, how do you let people know that you are actually running and interested in this elected position?
Okay. You are allowed 2 campaign letters. And to do that, I want to direct your attention to the under protocol 9.0 campaign communications. You should request and receive a list of all the people in the district council, and then you can email them directly or contact them directly, however you choose to contact them, to have conversation with them about your election process, about you running for this office. And so you're allowed to have these conversations. You're allowed to have them twice. Once is before, let's see, there's a range of time that you're allowed to have it. The first one is between, let me get the dates right, January 1st and March 31st. We've missed that window. The second communication may be sent any time between the announcement of the district leader committee results and the district council's annual meeting. Okay, so at this point, that's this point for most of you. And at this point, you are allowed to get the information to contact the members of the district council directly. And in that communication, you will want to write a nice letter, maybe include a link to your website or a video to indicate what you have to offer and why you should be elected.
Karen is saying that isn't that first round of communication after the nominations are announced?
The first communication, according to the protocol, is between January 1st and March 31st. So even if the DLC has not communicated the nominations at this point, it is already past that first window. And then I see Vicky says, I have access to the DEC and VP, the deck and the Vice President Education President's list. Do I need to get the DD's permission to use it? The answer is no. You do not need, because you already have access to it as a TRIO member, you don't need to get additional access to it. You already have that. And then Karen says, for Faith, that is after the deck meeting this Saturday when the nominations committee submits its report. Okay, so Faith?
1 minute, sorry, I'm getting a call.
Yeah, I saw that you were getting a call. I put you on mute, okay? Go ahead and take your call if you need it. Okay. Any additional comments on that? Okay. Not hearing any. Any additional questions in general? Vicki had an earlier comment. If people feel the election was run what to do if the people feel that the election was run unethically. Okay, and that's a, let me put it this way. There's a lot of times that we think that the election is not doing, people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, and it gets frustrating, especially when you know what the rules are. And so what your responsibility is to communicate what is happening to the chairperson of the DLC, the District Leadership Committee. Hold on a second, let me double check that. Some places, depending on what it is, you have to communicate to the district director, and other places you communicate it to the DLC. Let me go back and double check that. The elections, no, I don't want that part. Campaign violations, all right, you communicate it to the district director, not the DLC chairperson. So you communicate it to the district director, and at that point the district director will investigate the matter. If they cannot resolve the matter, it is turned over to the district executive committee. Now that's huge, all right? So you never want something to get it to that point to where it makes it to the district executive committee, because that's public. Everybody knows about it at that point, and they may have that influence them in the election, which is not what you want. So you want to be able to not have that happen. You need to know the rules, and if somebody's violating the rules, you communicate it to your district director, who is supposed to act on it. In the event that you have a district director that's not acting on it, you may bring it up to whom? My suggestion would be to go to Toastmasters International and ask them, because I'm not seeing guidance on that right now. So I would go to Toastmasters International, say I'm having this problem, my district director is not responding to my concerns as it relates to an ethical election, and ask them for guidance. Now, Vicki, you also said, I had an earlier comment, if people feel the election was run, oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading that. No, the IDs are not necessarily, you don't contact your ID, your international director. You would contact, it should be your district director, and if that's not working, you contact Toastmasters for guidance on how to get your district director to take responsibility for that. Okay, any additional questions? I really appreciate that question. I'm glad it came up, because when we run for office, I know when I ran in a contested election, and we hadn't had one in my district for years. So I had never seen a contested election, and it is so easy to make mistakes. It is so easy for somebody on your committee to make a mistake. And both sides, myself and my opponent, made mistakes. We made a lot of them. And you know what? It was okay that we don't want to make those mistakes, but I don't think that they affected the outcome of the election. And I think we both recognized that we were kind of swimming in the dark a little bit. That's why I want to make sure everybody feels comfortable, and we can have these conversations here about the process and about the rules, to making sure that we understand what they are. Oh, you are allowed to have a committee. Oh, thank you for asking, Vicki. If you want to have people helping you, by all means, reach out and ask them, have a conversation. Again, I just say, like when I'm talking to people, let's see, how do I do that? You have to be careful with how you say it. But usually if they're aware that you're running for office and they're friends, I don't see a problem in just saying, I was wondering if you'd be on my committee for my election. And if the answer is yes, great, this is what I would love your help with. For example, somebody might help you with the marketing, maybe creating a poster board for your table, or creating some campaign materials, or reviewing a letter that you have that you would like to go out and you want to have somebody review it for you. Another set of eyes is always extremely helpful. By all means, feel free, I think the important point here is that we do have a team of people helping us. That's part of our leadership development. And it is scary sometimes to ask people to help us because we're so used to, for me, I had a hard time asking people to help me. I have no problem reaching out and saying, do this for Toastmasters, but I did have a problem reaching out and saying, do it for me. I was a bit more shy about that. So if this is an important skill to have as you work your way up in the Toastmasters organization, it becomes increasingly more important that we can cross a variety of challenges. Any additional questions? Vicki, are you all set there? My cat has decided to join us, in case you're wondering what the background noise is here. He has sat in my lap now. So, all right. And okay, yeah, you said you're all set. Good. Any other questions? All right, now let me go ahead and I have one more slide. Since I'm not hearing questions, let me just go ahead and start to wrap it up. Right. After the webinar, if you start to have questions cropping up, you're not sure what to do or how to do it, you may reach out to me at any time. I'm including my cell phone number and my email address. It's 517-505-1449. For those of you in Canada, feel free to send me an email and ask me to call you if you would like a phone call. And I can call you without a problem. And just tell me what phone number to call, and I can do that without you having to pay the charge. All right, I do say that sometimes on policy and protocol, those questions may be directed towards our international director, which is Vera Johnson in Region 6. I didn't get permission right ahead of time to have her contact information on this slide. Some of you know her very well, but if you do want to contact her, just let me know and I will forward your information to her and she can contact you if that is something that you would like to do. And then the last is to feel free to reach out to World Headquarters, as I mentioned earlier. They have a couple different groups of people there that could help us depending on what the specific concern is. Most of the time I'm suggesting that you talk to somebody at District Services, all right, and the phone number is 949-858-8255. And for District Services, that's anything as it relates to the district election. There's also, if you have questions about the proxy that is available to voters, for any voting concerns as it relates to the proxy, you may approach proxyinfo@Toastmasters, which is plural.org, and you may contact them directly. Okay, at this point, I have wrapped up and presented my session. If there's any last questions, I'm still here and ready to hopefully answer them. Yes, I'm happy to share my slides with you. I'm also, Christina, I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to have this webinar recorded and I will share that on, how do I want to share that with you? What's the best way for me to share that with you? Somebody help me with that. I don't have your email addresses, except for a few of you that are in my district. I don't have your email addresses.
Any of us who want it can just type our email addresses in the chat window right now.
Okay, let's do that, and I'll save that. I have the ability to save chat. So and then I will capture that. If you're on the phone and you don't have the typing information, email me at carol@msu.edu. It's CAROL @msu.edu. Alicia, I didn't know you were online. Welcome. There you are. I don't know how I missed you, right up at the top. Okay, I'll be happy to get this off to you as soon as I get the recording. All right, it was a pleasure to work with you tonight. I am cheering for each one of you to have a successful and above board election process. I hope it all goes smoothly for you. It is nerve-wracking. Just do the best you can on it. Good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome.